that we would impose around, any of the ponds. So if the residents want to take further steps other than the enforcement element of that, that would have to be on their own volition. So that's my thoughts on that.
Would we then get comments or complaints about flashing lights then?
Yep, could very well be, but
It would just,
I know that
I'm not saying that I'm against it, but that could be the next thing if we have everybody with flashing lights all over town.
the residents that are dealing with this issue are beyond frustrated, and so we're going, hopefully this evening we'll start the process of having an enforcement policy with regard to feeding them, because if they don't have readily available food, they're more than likely could move on. So, any other discussion? Any questions for Mr. Shockley? Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I move we approve the first reading.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Simmons seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the first reading of Ordinance 1216, presented by Mr. John Shockley, pages 102 to 104, and this is a ordinance with regard to wildlife in our community. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 3, storm sewer lift
Recording
station.
in progress.
Item number 3, storm sewer lift station SM54 and force main rehabilitation phase 2. It is in pages 105 to 113 in the packet. And the purpose of this discussion this evening is to create a project number 4068, approve the engineer's report, and authorize engineers to prepare a task order for basic services. Presenting this evening, we have City Engineer Dan Hansen. Good evening, Mr. Hansen. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. In your packet, as the Commissioner President stated, we're looking to create a project where we're going to rehab storm lift station SM54 and the force main, the 24-inch force main that goes out from it. This force main was originally installed to evacuate the storm sewer from the McMahon's additions, and in 2019, it was discovered that the force main had started to leak, and that was causing some issues with some cavitation. Public Works televised the line, found that the storm sewer the concrete storm sewer actually wasn't in too bad a shape. It was the joints where the leaks were coming from. So also in your packet, and I'll scroll down to find the exhibit here, you can see there's really 3 parts to talk about. The part that's in the rectangle, the red rectangle that I'm pointing out here, is what we're talking about tonight to make this our project. This area from the intersection west that says 24-inch RCP with CIPP liner, that actually was the area where the leaks were discovered, and that was actually corrected through a previous project in 2019. However, we know that all the force main was constructed with the same means, methods, techniques, and materials. So we're looking to take care of the rest of the force main with this project. It has been a project that's been on the CIP, and it's broken down into 2 different projects to do the work. The first project that's not in front of the commission, but just for your information, is in the city of Fargo has this 52nd Avenue project where they're reconstructing the roadway there. They are going to take care of the force main replacement from that where we ended the relining project west to the river. So that's already in their project and not up for consideration tonight. But what is up for consideration is to rehab that storm lift station, rehab the pumps, check the valves, the concrete access around the lift station, as well as relining that 24-inch RCP. So we're not going to be digging the boulevard up the entire way. It would be 2 holes on both ends of it that we could do that trenchless relining project. So what we're looking at for a cost is estimated by our consultant at $680,000. We do have in the 2023 CIP a $900,000 budget item for this work. So with that, I would entertain any questions.
Questions for Mr. Hanson?
So will this
Please,
be,
Commissioner Olson.
will this be done at the same time Fargo's gonna be doing that portion west? So it's all done at the same time?
Yes, it is. They're both intended to be constructed in 2023. Our project does not anticipate any traffic issues with it, so we're not thinking that we're going to impact any kind of traffic movement with ours, because ours is for the most part in the boulevard and trenchless. But we did coordinate with Fargo, so that way the contractor that gets the bid for that is aware that they're going to have to be playing in the same sandbox as our contractor as well.
Additional questions for Mr. Hanson? Thank you, sir. Commissioners?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the storm sewer lift station and force main rehabilitation, Phase 2, to create a project 4068 and approve the engineer's report and authorize our engineering team to prepare a task order for basic services. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Item number 4, Shy West improvements at 225 40th Avenue West, West Fargo. It's in pages 114 and 121 in the packet. And what's being proposed this evening is that the commission consider a petition for improvements and to approve an improvement agreement. Mr. Hanson.
Thank you again, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. In your packet is a petition that has been submitted by Greenworks Properties LLC, who own the Shy West business at the corner of Cheyenne and 40th. And there are, if you recall, a number of months ago, closer to late spring, early summer, if memory serves me correctly, Jody was here and was talking about an access, some community gardens, some other things of that nature, and we were directed as staff to go and begin some communication with them to discover if there is an opportunity that we could potentially provide an access to the Shy West property off of 4th Street. And so we have done that. We've taken a look I've worked with Public Works, engineering department, and with the property owner and petitioner to find out if there was a suitable place that we would be able to install this. I'm gonna just go down and take a look. There's an exhibit that shows the 4th Street west, because this would be now a commercial access to it would be improved to our commercial standards as a concrete roadway down to the point of that access. It currently is from our recycle center's driveway to the south, a gravel roadway. So we would be reconstructing that roadway as a concrete roadway down to that access. And then the yellow line would actually be an access from 4th over to the Shy West property. That would be installed with this same petition. That would be a bituminous surface roadway, approximately 26 feet wide, that would allow access to their property and to their business off of 4th. Currently, they only have the one access from the north coming off of 4th Avenue West, and that is a right-in, right-out. It's not a full access to their property off of 40th. So in the end, this is what was come up with as far as here's where we would have the ability to do it. Tonight, we're only just bringing the petition in front of the commission, knowing that we can do it. We're here to find out should we do it, because there are some other things that play into this. This is access to a private business across city property. We do use that area for snow storage, and in the future, the pond is anticipated to be expanded when we do a future Cheyenne improvement. So there is some future use of that property that we're going to need. However, talking with Public Works, putting the driveway located on the north side of our property close to the water tower, it would be out of the way of those operations, and we would be able to work with that. But the question is should we pursue a developer's agreement or an improvement agreement with the property owner? So tonight, again, it's just for the discussion of should we move forward to work with the property owner and petitioner for this improvement agreement. And with that, I would entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Questions? Commissioners?
I have a question.
Commissioner Simmons.
Well, go ahead, Commissioner George.
Or
Okay,
Commissioner,
I
Commissioner
guess two quick ones. Who is Shy West paying for these improvements, and what happened to eliminating the driveway off of 40th Avenue into the recycling?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner George, to take those questions. The who eliminated the original access into the recycle center. The owner of Shy West had come in front of the commission originally when they were looking to connect the recycle center parking lot to their property and create a little access through the city's recycle center to the property. That was not something that the city wanted to do, because then we would be directing business traffic through the recycle center. So when that happened, she had brought up the fact that there was a safety concern because people were coming out of the recycle center, coming up onto 40th and doing basically a U-turn to come back south into their property. We did take a look at it, and we agreed that that is a safety concern with those two driveway accesses that close to each other, and with the access to Shy West being the only access to their business being off of 40th, there was nothing we would be able to obviously do with their access to their business. So the only alternative was for us to actually remove the entrance to our recycle center off of 40th, which actually in the end is going to help our operations, because without having to have that access leaving onto 40th, it's going to allow us to expand our recycle center. And then the other question, if I've answered that properly, is who is going to pay for this? Part of the improvement agreement that we've been talking with Shy West about is that any of these improvements that would be done would be through that improvement agreement that would spell out that the owner of the business would pay for 100% of all the property improvements that we're talking about tonight, and it would be assessed against the property. So there would be no public funds used for the project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Commissioner Simmons?
Thank you, Dan. A couple of questions, please. One, I'm a little worried that we're setting a precedent here if we give this property, up. And do we have any idea, number two, how much it would cost to do this?
We have not engaged in any kind of feasibility study for this. The first step that we wanted to do was to find out if there is, if we do want to proceed with finding out what the costs are. The next step would actually be to hire a consultant to do the feasibility study for it. So I don't have a cost in front of
Okay,
me, but
that's
it would
fine.
be hundreds of thousands of dollars with that.
I'm thinking a lot. So the third question is then, are we looking at like selling them this, doing an easement through here, or what is the proposal as far as that goes? Because what happens if we have to go back in for some odd reason during Cheyenne Street reconstruction or any reason and tear that road out?
That's a great question, Commissioner Simmons. What I would envision that we would do would be we would set up an access easement to that property through our property. So because especially with them paying 100% for the improvements, they're going to want to have assurance that they will always have that access. If we were to ever have to tear that access out because we've got another capital improvement going on in the area, we would actually have to provide some form of a alternate route for them to get into their place of business, which I could see just being a temporary gravel access road nearby, near it, through that same property. As far as setting a precedence go, I'm unaware, based off of my young tenure with the city, of another situation where we have a business next to our public property that we have allowed an access easement for a private driveway. I'm not sure if Dustin remembers one at all, but I don't believe that there is a situation that I can think of with that. So we would be setting a precedence with this allowance.
Okay, thank you.
Additional question, Commissioner Anderson?
As far as an easement or whatever, we move forward with, who would be responsible for the maintenance of this, for the clearing of the snow, for any dirt, debris, whatever for this? Would that be on Shy West then, or is that dependent on any agreement that we come up with moving forward?
Yeah, that would be spelled out in detail in the improvement agreement that we would have, but what we would anticipate is that they would own and operate and maintain the access road for it. Now, we do use this area, as I said, for snow piling operations. So with us using it in the winter to pile snow up, I would believe that Public Works probably would somewhat keep it clear just for in the instances where their trucks need to dump snow. But in the meantime, in your just day-to-day operations, it would act as any other driveway where I would understand that Shy West would have somebody come and push the snow off of the road. And then the other thing that would need to be spelled out in any kind of an agreement would be what happens when the road needs maintenance? What happens if there's a failure in the road somewhere? It is a private driveway now, so we would expect that we would write in there that any maintenance of that driveway would also be taken care of by the petitioner.
Thank you.
Additional questions for Mr. Hanson?
All the questions I had were already asked, so
All right.
you guys beat me to the punch.
Commissioners, your pleasure.
I would make a motion to approve.
Commissioner George moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Anderson seconds. Been moved and seconded to accept the petition for improvements and to develop an improvement agreement. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails on a 3-2 vote. Moving on to item number 5, traffic signal at 9th Street West and 32nd Avenue West. It's in pages 122 to 132 in the packet, and it's the discussion this evening is to create an improvement district 2270, approve an engineer's report, and authorize a resolution of necessity. Mr. Hanson.
Thank you again, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. In your packet is this project to set up an improvement district, 2270. The intersection of, excuse me, of 9th Street West and 32nd Avenue West. We did a recent study, and due to growth and due to traffic patterns, the intersection did warrant the installation of a signal that wasn't based off of traffic crashes or anything like that. It was based off of traffic volume. So the intersection there does warrant the installation of a signal, and so we would be looking to enter into a contract for design with the consultant to design and then eventually install this next summer signal at that intersection. Given the traffic patterns, we feel it is a necessary improvement. There was a planned $500,000 budget in the 2022 CIP, and we do have an estimated cost in the engineer's report of $860,000. And the reason for the difference there is because we do have some intersection geometry that we need to improve. If you've noticed, there's a lot of lights that have, after it turns on, there's a flashing yellow left. Well, there are some intersections where you're not lined up directly with the traffic across from you, so it's called a negative a negative turn situation. So we would be improving that intersection not only with the signals, but we would also add to get the left turning movements from both directions lined up together. So that way the drivers that are in the queue waiting to take a left under the flashing yellow arrow would be able to see around the other vehicle instead of having to pull a little bit further out into the intersection to take a look at that. Over the next several years, just as a side, there are several different other intersections that we're looking on doing these improvements to. We've fielded a lot of questions. Why don't we have a flashing left arrow here and with the installation of the signal? And also given the fact that the traveling public is getting used to having those flashing left arrows, we would recommend that we fix that intersection for the safety of the people taking a left in it and install that signal. And lastly, there is a map that does show an improvement district that was put together for assessing this project. We figured out what the improvement district was based off of, I'll talk about the north and the south sides. And the improvement district, I'll start on the south side. It was chosen because eventually there will be a signal that's going to be needed on 9th Street and 40th Avenue. And so we basically picked about a halfway point between 32nd and 40th for the southern boundary of this, knowing that when that traffic signal is warranted on 40th and 9th, that there will be a northern boundary for that assessment district that would help pay for that traffic light. So that's how we came up with the southern boundary of that assessment district. On the north side of 32nd Avenue, you can see it actually goes up considerably far, basically all the way up to the diversion. Reason being for that is twofold. One is that the southern portion of this area definitely, right now a lot of people are funneling out on 26th Avenue out to Cheyenne. And the level of service of that roadway and that intersection is degraded during the morning rush hour at 7:20. It's very hard, and it actually stacks up back around the roundabout on 9th to get out of that intersection. So the studies that we've done, that we've had the consultant done, shows that if we put this signal at the intersection of 9th and 32nd, that it is going to improve the level of service of 26th Avenue heading out, because we think a lot of the people on the southern end of this district are going to funnel south to a signalized intersection to be able to head east and get on Cheyenne to either go south, north, or whatnot. And so the benefit to the people at the northern end of this assessment district would be the lessening of the amount of traffic that's going to be utilizing 26th Avenue to get out onto Cheyenne. Right, wrong, indifferent, that is the criteria that we had used to pick these assessment districts out. And with that, I would entertain any questions.
Questions for Mr. Hanson? Commissioner Simmons?
Dan, I'm looking at the map, and I just have a question. How close can you put intersection signals? Is there a minimum distance between the signal lights?
I don't have an exact footage. We don't like to stack them back to back because of queuing, and also you do see them sometimes closer, but a lot of times most of the time it's driven off of a traffic analysis. And so if it makes sense, it's done. If, for example, at the lights, you've got 32nd that comes out to the, 32nd that comes out where the lights are, and then
6th or 7th there, isn't it? Dustin,
just
what is
north
that?
of it, I believe it's.
That's what I'm thinking about when I'm asking this question.
Yeah, that area right there, we've got two signalized intersections fairly quick together. However, you can actually program it so that way that Cheyenne basically for that intersection is the controlling factor, and it pretty much stays green unless somebody queues up. Then it'll switch and it'll work together, and the program figures that out. For this, I don't see it. It basically comes down to the number of people that are traveling through the intersection. That's actually measured, calculated, and analyzed, and that creates what's called a warrant for the signal. So if the traffic warrants the signal, then the signal is proposed to do. Prior to the warrant being there, we use four-way stops. We'll use sometimes flashing signals, different type of signage. Traffic signal is the most expensive way to get an intersection monitored short of going with the full-blown roundabout, which doesn't fit the geometry of this intersection, so.
It just goes to show you the traffic that we've increased over the years, because I remember when we did both 32nd and 40th without warrants because of deaths and accidents out there. Now we're on basically a side street and we're doing signal lights.
Yeah, and to your
crazy.
point, I mentioned just the amount of traffic, but yes, there are other things like crashes, fatalities, things like that that can warrant a different type of traffic.
Thank you.
Commissioner George.
Yes, hi, just a comment. I support the traffic signal. I don't support the special assessment that goes with it. So that's why you'll see me vote the way I do, just so you know.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Olson.
You answered my question that I was going to ask about how you determine the southern boundary, but do you know approximately when the signal would go on 40th and 9th?
I can't answer that
Okay.
definitively. It'll be once we see the traffic pick up, then we're going to be doing another analysis, and there's other things that, you know, local school districts involved, things like that can also help trigger.
Because a
us
lot of the
studying.
traffic that comes up 9th to 32nd come from everybody that lives north of 40th, and they funnel through there, dropping their kids off to Aurora Elementary, and then they scoot out to 32nd and go there. So I was going to propose that you slide that boundary all the way down to 40th, but if we're going to have one there, then they would get hit twice, so.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thanks for the explanation on the district. I think, you know, the special assessment district, I too questioned it, and Commissioner Olson brings up a good point with the traffic flow coming from Aurora. I question if we should be assessing this out, but I guess from my perspective, this isn't going to prevent me from, you know, any kind of the way I vote anyways. So I think that's probably just a topic of conversation for later as this moves forward, my opinion anyways, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. My question is going to be on the dollar amounts. So with 32nd Avenue being the arterial collector, is that the proper terminology?
Sure.
How in the world does the geometry of that intersection for north and south not match up? I mean, to me, that makes no sense, and it adds considerable amount of money. Do we have a lot of other intersections on our arterial collectors that we're going to be faced with this as we continue to make improvements, like you suggested on 40th?
You're talking with the left turn.
Yes, sir. You know, the fact that, you know, the CIP has been carried in, on 2022 has been carrying in at $500,000. Now we're talking about the geometry correction. I don't understand why a north-south road would not automatically align in this newer neighborhoods. I mean, within the last 20 years.
Yeah, the north-south roads do align. What we're talking about is the left turning movements of people traveling on 32nd. So when people traveling on 32nd get to the signalized intersection at 9th, say you're heading west to go south.
I drove it this morning.
Yeah, and somebody else is heading east to go north. When they're sitting at the traffic light, they are offset. And so what we're looking to do is just the traffic that's going east and west to line them up so they're the middle of my car is facing the front of your car, the middle of your car, if we're both sitting at that traffic light, one headed east and one headed west.
Great explanation. Okay. But again, with the growth of the south side that we've experienced, and 32nd and 40th were both redone, if you will, what, in the last 6 years?
8 years, yeah.
Please, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Commissioner President Nordis. And Commissioners, I'll do my best here to shed some light. So as Dan is describing, there's a negative offset situation, and when 32nd Avenue was urbanized back in 2016, there let's just say in the last 5 years, there have been changes from the federal regulations standpoint on how these intersections need to geometrically align. And so we experienced some of this issue with Cheyenne Street finishing up. We had anticipated being able to use flashing yellow lights. Well, during the construction of that project, those federal requirements changed. We were not able to use flashing yellow lights, and it's because of this new geometry requirement. So when 32nd Avenue was designed and planned, albeit we anticipated there'd be a signal here someday, just the federal regulations on signal design has changed in the last few years, and now this negative offset situation is something that also Fargo is dealing with. So it's not that it wasn't designed correctly, it's those parameters have changed. When it comes to putting in new signalized intersections, there's now a requirement to have a negative offset, or to avoid that negative offset.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Now, in the 2022 CIP for $500,000, was that going to be split between special assessments as well as our sales tax revenues? Was that?
Yes.
That was always that way?
It was an
There was going
80-20
to be a split. So now that we have an $860,000 budget, it's, did the dollars for the sales tax investment from the city increase, or did is the special assessment getting larger? Do you have a?
We would, so the engineer's report that's before you still shows an 80-20 split. But yes, effectively, because the overall cost has gone up, both the assessment and the city share has also increased.
Clarify the comment of 80-20 split.
In our capital improvement plan for regional reconstruction projects, we have established an 80% special assessment and 20% city share.
Just wanted to clarify it for the public. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you. Dan, one last question. How, when you said traffic study, not accidents, are kind of driving this one, traffic count, I'm assuming. How in the world can the traffic count from the west be justified? Because I don't see that many cars coming from the west heading east.
It's not the traffic from the west that's providing the counts, it's the traffic.
Well, that'd be the only ones, isn't it? That's,
What warranted the need for the signal was the traffic funneling onto 32nd from the north and the south. And because of the negative offset of those intersections, it makes sense now to fix that. I mean, we could proceed with just a traffic light, keep the negative offset, don't allow the flashing yellow arrow, and just leave the geometry of the intersection as it sits today. We added that geometry change to the project because there's a lot of people fixing this right now, and the traveling public they have a level of expectation that they can take a left, especially if you consider people heading west on 32nd, stopping to take a left. Exactly your point that there is not very much traffic heading eastbound on 32nd in that location. Can you imagine the frustration of people sitting in a left-bound lane with a red arrow and they can't take a left and there's nobody coming and it's just stopping for that purpose? So the reason it was added was because of the level of expectation of our traveling public right now to have those left blinking arrows, yellow arrows.
so do we know what this is going to cost per lot yet or not?
I have not done that calculation.
That will come down the line through the assessment, correct?
Yes, that's
Correct,
correct.
yeah. We would be authorizing the resolution of necessity, and part of that next process is we take a look at how many units that would be assessed for it, and then break it down. Say it's 860,000, I would have a hard time guessing how many units are,
We're not there yet, that's what my.
we're not there yet.
Okay.
We'll have that shortly.
And we will include that information when we send out a letter. So if this is approved and we move forward, we send out a letter to every property informing them of the resolution of necessity process, that there'll be a protest hearing scheduled. And we usually give a range, an estimated range of what their potential assessment will be. And so that will happen before that letter goes out.
Commissioner Olson.
You're talking about changing the intersection geometry. Is it only for the east-west traffic, or will you change it for the north-south too?
Only for the east-west traffic. Yep. Right now, the north and south traffic are lined up appropriately.
We do have to keep in mind, too, that one of West Fargo's largest parks are just to the south there. So it does create traffic at certain times with kids' ball games and all of those types of things that the Park District runs down there and the like. And quite honestly, when we had construction from to 40th 3 years ago, Lieutenant Dura and I were the crossing guards at Osgood Elementary. And the traffic of the number of parents that drop their children off and then head back north, then gonna go get on to 32nd and go to work was substantial. It was amazing. I did that for, I don't know how many days that but it was Lieutenant Dura and I that did it. And there is a lot of traffic there when school is in session. There's no question about that. And there's some very large apartment buildings to that south side too that folks are coming home. So, all right. Any additional questions for Mr. Hanson? Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Olson seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the creation of an Improvement District 2270 and approve an engineer's report and authorize a resolution of necessity for a traffic signal at 9th Street West and 32nd Avenue West in West Fargo. It's on pages 122 to 132 in your packet. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried on a 4-to-1 vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Item number 6 is the first reading of ordinance number 1210 regarding the sales and use tax. Mr. John Shockley, City Attorney, City of West Fargo. It is in pages 133 to 136 in the packet. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Commission President. Tonight is the first reading of the ordinance that was approved by the voters at the recent election. This is the same ordinance that was published in the newspaper twice and was voted upon by the voters. The process, the next steps are for the City Council to have the first and second reading. Between the first and second reading, I will be in contact with the State Tax Commissioner's Office to make any adjustments to the collections. Once the second reading occurs, then we'll report that to the State Tax Commissioner's Office. Collections commence approximately 90 days after that, so the additional half-cent, if we stay on schedule, would be anticipated to start on April 1st of 2023, with your first collections being received by the city in May, because it always takes a month after it's collected by the State Tax Commissioner. Once again, same ordinance that was published and approved by the voters. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Questions? Will we get a notification from the county? Today was the canvassing, Cass County Canvassing Board. Will we get a notification that the election has been certified?
I believe that we will. I will double check on that tomorrow, but I hadn't heard anything from the county today. I don't know if that's been.
Our communications director stopped me before the meeting and said that she had a voicemail into somebody over there to confirm. She hasn't heard back yet.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Ms. Richard and I had a conversation about that last week. Okay. So, Commissioners, we have the first reading for 1210, our sales and use tax. Comments or questions of Mr. Shockley?
I make a motion we approve first reading.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Commissioner Simmons seconds. Been moved and seconded to approve the first reading of ordinance 1210 regarding the sales and use tax as presented by Mr. Shockley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7 is the Police Department Community Transparency Dashboard. Mr. Dennis Otterson, Chief of Police, City of West Fargo.
Thank you, Commission President Dardis and members of the commission. I'm here tonight to share an update, something that we've been working on for quite some time internally in the police department. Lauren is here with me from GIS, and this project kicked off really over a year ago during some discussions between myself, our IT department, and our communications staff. And really what we're proposing tonight, or wanting to share with you, is a program that I think is really going to increase the transparency of things that are taking place within the police department with our community. As you well know, trust with our community is an important part of what we do at the police department through our community engagement programs. Everything that we do there with that mutual respect and the trust, that's the only way that we can operate and effectively police our community. And right now we enjoy a great deal of support from our community, and I think this is just another tool to be able to enhance that. So what we've been working on, and I will give all the credit to Lauren and our GIS department, our communications department, and our criminal intelligence analysts that you funded through the 2022 budget that we were able to bring on board, is a community police transparency dashboard, we're calling it. So what our community is going to be able to do is really get real-time, live-time updates of things that are taking place in our community, things that we have identified working together collaboratively to try to provide details of crime trends, things that are happening in neighborhoods, things that I believe that the public has an interest in, the number of calls for service that we're responding to, the number of arrests that our police department is making throughout the year, traffic crash data, the number of incidents where we have people that are involved in crimes fleeing from our police officers, either on foot or in motor vehicles. There's just a lot of different things that we're going to be able to do with this. And Lauren and her team at GIS, along with our Intel analyst, Nick Gomez, has been able to build a program that automatically updates this website or this web page with real-time data, so that we have to feed in through our records management system. So there's nobody that has to sit behind the scenes and tally things that happen every day. These are numbers that are gleaned from information that we're required to report to the FBI through the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS as it's named. And so the only thing that this transparency dashboard does not have is open and active cases. So, and I'm going to have Lauren come up and show you a little bit about some of the features and some of the things that it's capable of. But because of the way Century Code is written, and because of the sensitivity of some of our open and active investigations, we have elected to leave those off of our crime maps that are neighborhood impacted. And we have also left out some data to protect certain crime victims, certain classes of crimes, particularly juveniles, to protect identities of those of our younger people, and some more sensitive investigations that we have that take place in the city. So with that, I will turn it over to Lauren. She can help us navigate through and show you a little bit about what the dashboard is all about, and then either Lauren or I can answer questions for you.
Thank you, Chief. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Okay. This is kind of the main page of the website. As you can see, police transparency front and center. If you scroll down, you get some counts on some things that the chief has made known that he would like the public to see and what the public typically requests about. So you've got some 8 main categories here. This is showing you year-to-date offense counts and then the prior year-to-date. So you can kind of compare last year to this year, year-to-date. From there, you can head to the crime stats page. This page just gives you more in-depth numbers. This is a crimes against persons category. As you can see, it includes some assaults, homicides, kidnapping. Also, your sex offenses will be in that count. As you can see, the last 35 days. And then here's your number, actual count of those compared to the 35 days prior to the last 35 days. And then just a year by year count of where we're at. Then we go to property crimes, some thefts, burglaries, crimes against society. This is going to be all of your drug offenses, any animal cruelty, weapons violations, stuff like that. Here's that disclaimer that it is only closed cases, nothing open that's being investigated is in there, along with a link so that you can see every single crime category that's included within those categories. Here's a calls for service dashboard. It ranges from January of 2021 until this month. If you can see November, as Chief said, it is a rolling count. So as you can see, November is quite significantly lower because as the month goes on, it will slowly increase. Same type of deal counts here, 365 compared to the 365 days before the last. Same with 28 days and the last 7 days. This is your same year-to-date counts as on the homepage. Here we have a sex offender registry. This is taken from the state of North Dakota website. That's just embedded in here for residents to easily access so that they have it right at their fingertips. And then we get into some links to different crime mapping. So if you click this link, pop up this map. So within this map, this is also displaying only the significant crimes that get reported to the state and for federal reporting. So it's not going to display mainly any lower level offenses such as city offenses. However, there are some city offenses that do go to the state and are reported in state reporting as well. So within here, the blue ones are typically property crimes, the yellows are personal crimes, and the gray ones are those crimes against society. If you scroll in, as you can see, the dots are displaced onto the center line of the streets. They will not go over any address specifically. And if you click on a dot, as you can see, this one of 3 here, there will likely be more points overlaid from one point because they're going to take everything within that block and put them on that center line. It will also display this address of 800. It's not going to give you a specific house number. I'm also working on adding in the word BLK for block range. And within here, all the information they will get is the address. You'll get an ICR, so if you do have more questions, you can contact the police department and have that specific number to reach out and ask for questions regarding it. And it'll give you that general crime code description of motor vehicle theft, but the direct statute, specific statute of the offense is not listed, as well as the reporting date. Within this application, residents are also able to type in their specific address if they feel they want to search their home. Here gives you a summary of the offenses that are displayed on the current screen. So as you zoom in and out, these numbers will change. I know you can't really see it. This number, they filter out. You can also drop down and get more details on those incidents. If you click on one, it'll show you where it's at. This filter button gives you the opportunity to filter based off of any reported date. So if you want to search like the last 3 months, you can do that here. Or if you want a specific crime category, such as all the burglaries just displayed, you can also do that, or just all of the ag assaults, you can do that as well. This will be nice for residents, so if they feel like they want to move into town, they can type in an address, select a dot, and then they can put in I don't know where the keyboard is. Oh, it's right here. Like say they want to do a 1/4 mile around that dot, they can see all of the crimes listed within that dot. And they're able to export that data as well if they feel. Here's a legend just describing what all of the points mean. And then this is a way to just change your base map if you want to see imagery at the bottom or anything else. That's available as well. And then this is the home screen describing what is all capable with some directions. Anything to add?
I don't think so. I think you get a pretty good idea of how detailed this is, and why we think it's really going to enhance our community's ability to see what's happening. It was really important for us. I think one of the nice features about what Lauren and the team have put together is the fact that we're not pinpointing any particular residences, right? We're marking it to a specific, like the 800 block of 8th Avenue East, the one that she pulled up. So it's not going to identify a particular residence. It's not going to identify, for crime. It's just going to give you a general, generic kind of neighborhood or street or, 100 block of whatever street or avenue that you're on. So we're not necessarily identifying individual households. We're not plotting these things right over the top of a residence. And that was intentional, for privacy reasons, we don't want to necessarily identify, particular residences, but we think it's important for the public to know and be able to find out real time what's happening in their neighborhoods.
Do you track time of day or day of the week?
It is included. We can include that if we would like within that reported date.
Because I would assume that you'd use that for your patrol division if there's an influx of bad things happening in a certain neighborhood.
We do. We absolutely, that's one of the reasons, or one of the things that we look at in terms of how we deploy our resources right now in our patrol division. And then if we're working collaboratively in our patrol and investigations division, working, if it might be a string of burglaries or thefts from construction sites, things like that, we will utilize these same statistics to be able to build out how we're deploying people out and whether we're working different types of crimes in neighborhoods.
So how does this report when you, like our combined drug task force or the street crimes unit or anything like that, do they still appear, and will they be wherever the locale is in the community or just West Fargo?
So the only things that are going to appear on here are closed or inactive cases. So if they're actively working an investigation or it's an open case, it's not going to plot on this map.
For obvious reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Specifically for that reason. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that as part of kind of this, in a review of everything else that we're doing internally with best practices, we're working on a revamp or a review of our entire policy and procedure manual internally in the police department. And we've got a little bit of work to do on that. That's probably going to carry us sometime into the first quarter of 23. But the plan is at some point to also publish use of force statistics on this dashboard.
Excellent.
I think that's important for our community to be able to understand the limited number of times that our police officers, based on if you just look at these real-time statistics that are year-to-date today, we've arrested about 1,400 people in the city of West Fargo year-to-date. And I can tell you that very, very few, less than 1%, probably in the tenths of 1%, do we ever have to use some sort of force. And generally speaking, it's people not complying during handcuffing or something, very minor. And so I think it's really important for the public to understand that because there are narratives that are going on a national level that are trying to hold the police accountable, and sometimes those narratives get skewed a little bit, right, and lead people to believe that force is being utilized on our communities and our citizens much more frequently and more prevalent than they are here, in the city of West Fargo. So it's really important. I think that's a very, very important thing to get out. There's also going to be a community engagement drop down that's going to really inform our public. We'll get a calendar out there and we'll have a list of different events and things that we're doing out in the community to help, again, increase that trust and transparency out in the community. So. And again, just as we close up here, unless you've got more questions, just important to know that these aren't, and Lauren's done a great job of putting the disclaimer up there, but I think it's really important not only for you to know, but for the community to know that these are not exact numbers, right? They're slightly below what's been reported because open and active cases are not contained in there. So they are not exact, and they are not going to mirror what our annual report will, because as we transition into 2023, we will have cases that are still open and active, but we will report accurately everything that was reported in 2022 during our annual report.
Thank you, Chief. Commissioner Olson?
Just more of a question of, did you develop this, Lauren, this whole process?
Yes.
Congratulations, thank you. You wowed me. You did.
Me as I can tell you, Commissioner Olson, I've said it numerous times this week, I was absolutely blown away by the I mean, it exceeded my expectations. I can't even tell you. You know, we wanted to do something similar to this. I had, when she brought it, you know, forward, I commend her, the GIS department, again, you know, internally, some folks in the police department and communication staff for, I think, putting together a great product here for our community. And we're going to continue to tweak it and make it, you know, just the way we want to. So it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress, but I think it's really important to bring it forward to you, to show you what we've been working on, and in an attempt to be, you know, as transparent as we can be with our community.
You have to put a copyright on this, huh?
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, no, I like this. This is really cool. I'm excited to play around with it. I really like the data and stuff. So, when does this go live?
Well, we've got a little bit of work to do. We've been meeting individually with, we met with Commissioner Simmons to show him, because he's got the police portfolio. Last week, we've been doing some internal meetings with our communication staff and with GIS, and I think, you know, if all goes as planned, I think probably sometime next week, we can probably get this thing launched, but I think we've got just a little bit of work to do yet to finalize what it's going to look like when people get on there. And then there's some work being done by our communication staff behind the scenes too, with our city web pages, and so how to integrate this dashboard into our, you know, into our what is currently our police department homepage. So there's a little bit of work to do, some behind the scenes, but I'm hoping, you know, within the next week we can launch it.
Great, thank you.
Additional questions? Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks.
Item number 8 is the fire headquarters update. We'll call on Fire Chief Dan Fuller for that report, please. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Commissioner President Dardis, members of the commission. I just have a quick update on the fire station project. Is this going to be all right this way, or do I have to share the actual PowerPoint? So off share. Like that. Okay. Perfect. So our project here is going along pretty well. I just wanted to go ahead and share some change order information with everyone. It's very positive news, and then provide some pictures of where we're at with the project. So we've broken our change orders into 3 different types. We have change of scope. So those are items that we had budget money for, but we did not receive a bidder. So it was already approved in the budget as an allocation, and we just had to change a scope on some other construction agent or company that already had worked with us. So that accounts for about $101,000, $102,000. Change orders during construction is $134,716. There's about 17 orders. They're all pretty small things. A lot of things that changed, either supply chain issues. It accounts for a couple of these. None of them are. There's only the one that I brought forward that's over 50,000. The rest of them are pretty small, but it's all supply chain or manpower issues that we're trying to work through. But for the scope of the overall project of $18 million, that's a very small number that we're dealing with right now. We're pretty happy with that. And then value engineering change orders. So these are the change orders we've gone back and changed product or placement or what have you, to try to value engineer that money down. So we're down to $516,574.77 in savings over the overall project from what you all had allotted to us for a budget. So those are good things, and we still have some things coming in for value engineering right now. So that's not going to be the final number. May 25th, we broke ground. There we all are that day. Seems like a long time ago with the snow on the ground. Right after that in spring, they got after doing all the site work, tearing up what was out there, taking off the top layer of soil and getting down to an area that they could work with. Went in, got the basement dug, put in the pillars that the building's going to sit on. So there's very large concrete pillars that are down into the ground to make sure that the weight of the building is being held up. There's another picture of that, working those pillars in. And then getting the basement formed and poured. So there's, that was about in the middle of the summer, about where they were at. And there's a lot of underground work that's been done, and that's why some people probably driving by and thought we were really behind. They were doing a lot of work you just couldn't see underground from the street level. There's a picture a couple weeks later where they capped the underground off, and they're getting the rest of the footings together for the building. It's starting to take shape here. You can see everything to the left. That's the apparatus bay where all the trucks are going to park, and the training tower, and everything to the right is the training center, and then the actual living quarters on the first floor and administration on the second floor. And this is the day we started going up. So that front tower is the elevator, and the back tower that they're working on there is the stairwell. And they're starting to put up the steel, and you can see the ramp going down into the basement. There's starting to get some of the steel up there. A little more steel, and then they started putting in the big CMU brick walls. One of the biggest change orders that we've saved is about $190,000 changing that brick wall there on the far end from a burnished brick to just a plain flat CMU brick that we're going to have to paint, but the savings is tremendous. So those are some of the items that we kind of picked off as we went. Another picture right before it snowed. They got all the underground work, all the fire hydrants in, all the water mains, the electrical gas, all the data connections, and now they're just working on getting getting some class 5 down over the driveway so that we can plow this winter. Here after it snowed, we were pretty lucky that the snow didn't come till later in the year. We got by pretty good. And then this was actually today, these pictures. So they're at the point now they're working on getting the training tower up, and that's why they have that giant area tented right there, because they're putting in the CMU block and trying to get the 4-story tower up. And then they're working on getting the exterior sheeted. They're putting up studs in between all the steel girders that are up now, and getting it sheeted so that they can get everything heated and keep working through the winter. And that's, again, what it should look like when it's done. It's still about 40% there. So that's an update from that building, and we really wanted to get everyone out to take a walkthrough, but now that the snow's up, it snowed on that, it's really tricky to be out there. So once we get everything enclosed and heated, we're going to try to get a walkthrough with the commission. So any questions? I do have a list of the actual VE items the things that we cut out, and then some of the change orders too. So I have that information if anyone would want it specifically.
Commissioners, questions for the chief?
When was the scheduled completion date again?
We were aiming for May. Then we got back into June, and I think right now we are looking at July 17th. That's a very specific date, and I won't be held to that. But that's what they're saying. So middle of July.
Could we please change the screen so I can see Commissioner George if she has any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you for the update.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Just for everybody's information, these change orders that have been ongoing, have been, they are submitted to Commissioner Simmons because he holds the fire portfolio as well. And Mrs. Fisk and Judy in finance and myself review them all. Mrs. Fisk and I have to sign off on everything. So they are being reviewed on a weekly basis as they come in. If commissioners, if you would want more transparency, we can certainly include you in some more additional of that. But like Commissioner Fuller has said, for the most part, the value-added engineering and changing some materials because of necessity, it's been a pretty positive construction project to this point. I would have to say that. So, but again, Mrs. Fisk, myself, Judy, and Commissioner Simmons, we all review all the change orders. But if you want more information, don't hesitate to ask. Chief, anything else for the chief?
No, I would just mention, Chief, Mayor, you keep signing those as long as he comes in under budget. You keep signing away. Because you're doing great. $500,000 is pretty, I mean, that's a good savings right now.
Yep.
So we appreciate it.
It's a great number. We've had a great team. I think we picked the right construction management company. They're doing great work for us and getting along great with the neighbors over there too, first name basis with everyone.
Yes.
It's working out quite well. So.
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item number 9 is the city administrator's report. We're going to call on Dustin Scott, the assistant city administrator, for anything that he might have, and also share with us any correspondence you're aware of, please, Mr. Scott.
Good evening again, Commissioner President Dardis and Commissioners. Actually, I spoke with Ms. Fisk this afternoon. I really don't have much to report on. She didn't share any correspondence that I could pass along to you, so I'll stand here for any questions you might have.
Anything for Mr. Scott or Mrs. Fisk's office? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any non-agenda items you'd like to bring forward at this time?
I do.
Commissioner Olson.
I just, I have a copy of the Saturday, November 12th business section from the Fargo Forum, and I would encourage all of the commissioners to take a look at the front page, and it says that 2022 has been a year of tremendous growth for downtown Fargo. I was wishing that we could come up with something like that too, to have tremendous growth in our downtown, but it's been pretty stagnant right now. I know that it's been a hard time because of COVID and pandemic and all of that other stuff, but I think we need to see what we can do to get our northern end of the Cheyenne Street project completed and finished, because it looks like it's half done. So there's hopefully that you can take a chance to look at this and see what something we need to do as a commission or staff or something like that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Olson. Anyone else?
I have something there.
Please,
I'm sorry.
Commissioner
No, you go first.
Please.
I don't want to.
Please.
Maybe you will say. I just want to mention, and I want to thank all the staff and both our chiefs for their hard work and correspondence and facts about the sales tax issue, and all the employees, our staff's hard work. And I want to thank the mayor and especially the commissioners up here who all chipped in a little bit to get that passed. Most importantly, I want to thank our citizens for passing that. And I realize it was very close, so I want to reach out to the people that didn't support it. And I think I can speak for all of us that we're going to do our very best to be as prudent as possible, good stewards with your money, and hopefully everybody will jump on board. So again, thank you all for all the help.
Very nice, thank you. There has been 2 meetings already with regard to the transparency and the reporting of the sales tax. Like Mr. Shockley outlined, we have to go through the state tax commissioner and all that type of thing. But there have been 2 internal discussions that have taken place about how we're going to report that half-cent sales tax and the transparency of where those dollars will be applied. Not only for all of us as commissioners, because quite honestly, when you're having that public discussion, that's an expectation that obviously our taxpayers have, they deserve, and we are going to give it to them. So that, there has been 2 discussions thus far that I've had with finance and administration, that we will have that as transparent as anybody can read it. Anyone else have a non-agenda item? Commissioner George, are you okay? You got anything for us?
No, I'm good. Thank you, sir.
All right, very good. Commissioners? All right, with that, Commissioner Simmons,
Move to adjourn.
Commissioner Olson,
Second.
we are adjourned. Thank you.
Emily.